What's up? You're watching Poot's Garage. This week, we're tackling a bunch of stuff. I think we're gonna start doing some tube bending and stuff here this weekend, but not quite on this truck yet. I know I want to get going on this, but I'm looking for the motivation, and so we'll get the motivation from working on other people's stuff. Before we get to that, a little update here. Last weekend we were tuning this sound system, and my input for one of the amps came apart. The ring came off and doesn't work anymore. So I contacted CT Sounds, and they were very helpful, and they sent me a prepaid shipping label. And so I pulled the amp out, packed it up, and sent it back to them. So hopefully in a week we'll have that back and working, and then I can continue tuning this thing and be done with it. But yeah, we're making progress. So big shout out to CT Sounds for stepping up and fixing that for me. That was a big deal there, so I appreciate it. And then the other thing I was kind of getting into was actually my tool storage. Last weekend I kind of handled my major storage containers and stuff in the Jeep, and so now I wanted to go over the tools, because I know my tool kit here is kind of a mess. So I've already gone through it and packed it all back up, so we'll kind of pull it back out here just to show you what we did. Now, I always use this old Craftsman tool bag. This thing has always been good. It's just a good size, and it's probably always held about 70 pounds worth of tools in there. It is super heavy, so it's holding up. But it is getting a little wore out, but we'll keep using it until it's done. But I used to keep so many tools in here that I couldn't even close it. If I packed it real nice and perfectly and everything in there, I could just barely get the top to close. But as you can see now we got plenty of room to close and zip it up, and it's no big deal. So we bought tool rolls. We bought 3 of these, but I only ended up using 2. So that was kind of nice. I bought 3 just in case. This one's a little heavy because it's got the majority of the stuff in it. And then that's it. And then we got a couple things down there: a hammer, pipe wrench, my big impact sockets, and then just a couple random things like a pair of gloves and a box cutter I threw in there. But we went through all of our tools, and I actually got rid of a ton of stuff that it was all duplicates, and that's what all these sockets and stuff are here. This was just all extra stuff that we didn't really need. I actually had duplicate of quarter drive, small deep sockets and stuff like that. These big impact sockets, I don't need a 7/16 impact socket on the trail. So we got rid of the small stuff out of our little impact box there. So just, yeah, got rid of a lot of stuff. Spark plug sockets, I kind of determined I don't really need spark plug sockets, especially, nope, these are not spark plug sockets. I take that back. I did keep one spark plug socket in there, but it's also just counts as another socket that's needed. These are flip sockets for lug nuts. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, I don't need flip sockets for lug nuts. I have regular sockets, so we don't need to carry these. And then these are the containers that I used to keep my sockets in. Well, some of the sockets. All my deep sockets were kept in these. They actually fit pretty nice. These old Tagliente Gelato containers are actually pretty handy. So if if you guys use those at home, eat that at home, those are actually pretty good containers to store stuff in. So yeah, we just kind of got rid of a lot of stuff. I mean, it's a couple pounds, nothing too crazy. And then all my sockets, like the shallow sockets with their ratchets, used to be kept in these plastic, containers. So everything was lined up, and I had the ratchet and an extension. But that container is just bulky, and it's just unnecessary. So we decided to get rid of those. And this is a tool roll here. So flip it, roll it out, everything's there. This one here has the majority of the heavier stuff. Unflip, roll it out, and then kind of hard to see, but I did label them with just a marker. So these are now all my standard sockets. I mixed quarter, 3/8, half drive. Mixed them all together because it just doesn't matter. You really don't need that much organization. Just kind of separate some basic stuff. We got deeps in there, so if I need a standard socket, all I gotta do is dig through this little spot. It's not that big a deal. Obviously, we did the same thing for metric sockets. And then my ratchets, I put all the quarter, 3/8, and half drive ratchets in one, along with all their extensions and adapters, stuff like that. So it's easy to find what you need. Just open it up, grab it. And then this one here, we mixed all of our wrenches, metric and standard. Not that big a deal because it's easy to find what you need. So I just know that I have a socket for every size, and I have a wrench for every size. Whether it's might have to change your your drive size, like 3/8 quarter, but I have a size for everything, and you can't plan for every single situation out there. You know, you can plan for as much as you want, but then it turns into over planning, and you're just carrying so much extra junk that it's just unnecessary. So carry as much as you can, but don't go overboard, and don't carry duplicates. That's kind of my thing right now. And then this one here is pretty basic as well. This one's just screwdrivers. That's easy. This one here, just some Allens. I actually spent a lot of time going through all my Allen wrenches. I had a ton of Allen wrenches, and they were all mixed up. So just to make 2 kits, this is strictly my metrics, and this is strictly my standards. And I even went through all my Allens in my toolbox too, because I had so many. So just to simplify stuff, like this little drawer here was packed full of like random Allens. And so I've always had this kit. This is nice. This is all my metrics, so that's easy. I used to have one of these for standard. I don't know what happened to it. Kind of wish I still had it, because it's super easy to deal with. But I just built a little standard kit, and that's all this is. This is all my standards. You don't need multiples and duplicates and different lengths and all the crazy stuff. Just make do with what you got. So come back over here. Then we got one for pliers, and that's just that, pliers. The only thing I need to add is I need to go buy another pair of needle nose pliers. Would be nice in here. But that's it. There's nothing else I really need or want. Vice grips. I want to buy a bunch of vice grips. A few vice grips would be nice. I need to get some more vice grips in here. And then as you're out wheeling and you know things break and you fix stuff and you start figuring out what you are missing, and yeah, just kind of have some basic wiring stuff. I can cut and crimp wire. I'll throw some like wire connectors, like just some basic stuff, butt connectors, and maybe, I don't know, maybe a couple eyelets, different things like that, just so we can repair wiring if needed. What are you doing over there? Terrorizing? Are you terrorizing in there? Yeah, and back in here, I have one big hammer. I don't see a need for having a small hammer. I have one very large hammer. And then I do keep this. This is my impacts here. For impacts, we basically only have, I should say impacts, or these double as just large deep sockets. These are just standards. I don't have any large deep metric sockets. Maybe I'll add those later on. We'll see, because those are kind of handy sometimes if you're having to tear apart suspension and stuff. But for right now, I mean, for most metric stuff, you can find a standard one that'll fit close enough and use that, especially when they are, you know, 6-point. And then we do have our old flip socket here. Man, this is an old one. I used to use this at Sears Auto Center. You can see I pinstriped it with an engraver. I was just having fun with it. But this is a metric socket here. So this is a, what is it, 21 and a 19 or something like that. So I do have some heavy metric sockets. But you can see where this was those 4 smaller ones that I just didn't need. So we could take that out. I mean, that took a pound out of that probably. And now we can throw that in there. Even have room to store other stuff in here if I wanted to. So yeah, we'll keep that little kit in there. Oh yeah, and then I do have one of these. This is like the old, who made these? I don't know. This is a lug nut wrench. The handle, I can't do it right now. The handle extends out to make it about twice as long there, so you have lots of leverage. And then this can also be used if you're actually just working on stuff. If you're, you know, your 1/2-inch drive ratchet's not long enough and you need some leverage, you can put this on there. So it's kind of like a breaker bar. Other than that, that's pretty much everything we take for tools. That kind of covers everything. So yeah, that's kind of what I was dealing with yesterday. Just going through this stuff. Oh, these bags, these tool bags, these are super cheap. These are $15 each off of Amazon. It's the Raccoon brand. I bought 3 of them because I didn't really know how many I would need. And originally I only used 1 because I had all the pliers and different things kind of set in the pockets on the sides here, but it's kind of clunky when everything's loose in there and it's flopping around and kind of a pain in the butt. So I was like, you know what, screw it. Let's make a second bag. So that'll make it easier. Plus, when you're out in the trail, if you don't want to grab this whole 60-pound bag of tools, you just grab whatever roll you need, or both these little rolls. And then you have all the tools over right next to your little camp, or your work area, wherever you're broken or doing whatever. And then I have this extra one here. Don't know what I'll do with it yet, but it's nice to have, since these are really light-duty bags. They are pretty thin. It's kind of like a cheap backpack material, you know. And the zippers are really pretty crappy zippers, so who knows how long these will actually last. But we have the spare that we can replace, but at only 15 bucks a piece, you can't really go wrong, you know? So obviously if you were in a racing situation where, you know, this stuff failing could end your day, then yeah, buy better stuff. But yeah, the better stuff, these are about 30 to 40 a piece, so I think this will work fine for now. Since I pulled these out and I thought of something else as I was talking, so you can see I labeled this one electrical connectors. These are Velcroed on. Those are kind of nice, so I'm going to pack one of these full of just random electrical connectors. Got my electrical box out here. You know, I don't need that many, so I don't need to carry this whole little box. I do have a lot of spare stuff in here too, so we'll just take, I don't know, 5 of each of those or something just to have with us out there. All right, let's get to what we're actually working on, the good stuff. So I got my outdoor mic on, so let's step outside. I got a full house outside. And check it out, we got all the rigs out here today. This is Christian's Jeep. I went over to his house yesterday, helped him do some wiring on it, and we noticed his frame was completely cracked off where his steering box is. I'm probably not gonna make much video on this, but I don't know if you can see with the light and everything, but it's cracked through here. The only thing holding this frame is this flat plate on the outside, but even it's starting to crack there and down there. So his steering box mounts in front of that, so his steering box is just eating that thing up. This is kind of a pre-made deal. So at some time, not us, somebody actually, they've extended this frame to cut off the stock frame, I'm guessing. And then they added this section of, I don't know what this is, like 2x4 to build this whole front corner thing going on here. But where they joined it is just not that great. They didn't like do any like fish plating besides this outer piece. So we're going to have to grind this out. That's an old weld there, so we'll have to grind all that out, re-weld it. The hardest part's gonna be actually getting it straight again. 'Cause I don't know, looking down the side, I don't know if you can see, like right there, it's all bowed out. And then it's hard to tell if this whole frame is actually moving or not, or if it's just this lower section. I know when you look down here, like this is pretty straight, I think. But then you get over here where the steering box actually mounts and it's pulling out. So we're definitely gonna have to figure something out there. We just started that. We'll mess with that later today, probably. This is what we're really going to be working on today. I am going to build a rear tube bumper for this thing. This is Wyatt's pickup. I don't know Toyotas very well, so I can't tell you what year, but you can see it's an old school one. Pretty cool little setup. It's on 37, solid axle swap. Couldn't tell you what he uses for springs or anything. Probably, what, trail gear front springs, and I don't know if he's got the Chevy 63s in the rear or not. He's already got some good sliders. Yeah, those rear springs look pretty long. I would guess those are Chevy 63s. But just a real basic setup, kind of what a lot of Toyotas do, and it just seems to work. You got the pretty common T-case setup. I think he's doubler in there. Looks like there's another one in front of it. And then this pretty common, I don't know what this is this trail gear or something else? I just don't know Toyotas. But this giant cross member that's made for the doublers and all that stuff. But it just works. These things are pretty cool. So now I got to figure out what I'm doing for rear bumper. Since there's not a whole lot of room to play and do anything super crazy, I think what we're going to do is we're just going to do a straight tube, bend it around the corner, and then down the other side, big U-shaped, and that'll just be right along the bottom of the bed. We don't want to lose any ground clearance on this thing, especially because this is, I don't know if this is a long bed or something. I don't know. It has a huge overhang on the rear already. And then I think I'm going to try to do a second bar up along the bed just to kind of protect the bedside a little bit more and try to protect the tail light. I don't know, we're just gonna have to play with it and see what we can do. Then he mentioned he wants to do like a 2-inch receiver in the middle for possible towing a small trailer someday. So we'll see if we can tie a receiver in there. And then I'm gonna be using this extra chunk of 2x2 metal I have. I think we're gonna weld that in between the frame rails at the very end. This frame's already been cut off pretty short, I think. So it kind of has to go way in there, but we'll add that in as a cross member to help tie that rear frame in, and then that'll also give us something better to tie the bumper into as well. So I think that'll work out pretty good. This is how I designed this garage. So I got the Corvette out. It is now in the driveway. And so I have workspace now. This is what I originally planned on doing in here is, you know, yeah, Corvette's got its parking spot, but when I got to get work done, you can push it out and you got this huge open area, so we can bend tube out here now instead of trying to do it in weird areas between vehicles and stuff. So yes. So the first thing we need to do on this thing is figure out how big of a piece. Jesus, this whole bed is falling apart. I need to figure out how much of a length I need all the way around. So let's give a quick measurement and we'll be adding a bunch to it, I'm sure. So we'll just go all the way to the end for now. So 32 plus, so add a little extra, 64 plus 32 plus 32. 32, 32, 64. Wow, those are really easy math. All right, let's see how good my new tube storage system is working here. You saw me build this thing to store my tubes up on the wall. So we'll get this out of the way. We're gonna need you. And then make sure we are still on camera. Yes, sir, we're tracking. See if I can get these tubes down without causing too much chaos. Man, I got a lot of junk around here. All right, I need my 1 3/4 120 wall. I think I'll, oh, that's a heavy one. Christian, that's a heavy one. Jesus. So this should be a 120, yep, a nice long one. Get rid of one of these at least. It's hitting my damn TV. So far so good. We haven't hit the wall yet. Oh! Knocking things off the wall. Oh. There's another one off the wall. Yeah, that's not gonna work so good, is it? Oh God. That tube is exceptionally long. It's a little longer than it should be, so Jesus, that was a mess. I'll have to work on fine-tuning that little system here. All right, let's get this tube set up. So first we need to cut this thing down. We're gonna be using the old DeWalt saw here with the Harbor Freight jig. And yeah, we'll just mark out 128 inches off this tube and we'll cut that. We're just sharing all sorts of random things. So if you use these Bic whiteout markers, they work really good. They got a little spring tip that you can get the stuff flowing. You can squeeze it and they mark metal really good. Way better than like a Sharpie or something that you can barely see anyways. So we're just gonna give this thing a rough mark there and we'll cut it right there. All right, about there. Got all our precise measurements gone. We are cleaned and greased. We are ready to bend. So hopefully everything goes right on this one. Doing a 90 degrees. Should be fairly easy. This thing set in here. There it looks like. Somewhere around there. All right, let's go. Oh, this guy apparently. Reset. You have to disconnect it, retract it all the way back, and then we can put this into the next pin. Next spot. Sitting about 40 degrees right now. As you can see, to go to a full 90, we got to reset this thing a couple times probably. It's not to mention you got to go past 90 because you're gonna have a bunch of spring back. Baby, come back. And we continue on. it is, we got it. So it's actually bent, I think, a little bit further than 90. I'm gonna throw it on the ground and check it with my big square off of the rig. And then if it's past, we might be able to undo it just a hair, because it's easier to unbend a couple degrees than it is to bend more a couple degrees, you know, without the bender. So we'll see what happens here. And this is how I check 90 degrees. So that side, we got it nice straight lined up on the edge of the tube. You see our gap's pretty even. This side, when it goes down, you can see our gap changes, moves. So we bent it just a hair too far. It's got to be just a couple degrees. So we'll see if we can undo it just a hair. But it's not the end of the world. It's really not much to begin with. So we're still looking good. So we're going to try sticking it in the receiver here of the Rubicon as far as it'll go. And then we're just going to try and give it a little undo. And then get the square, see where we're at. So it's supposed to work because metal likes to undo itself. It doesn't like to bend. It wants to go back to where it was. So we are trying to let it go back to where it was a little bit. Let's see what we got. Let's see if that did anything. Eyeballs. Wow, that made a big difference. Still a little off though. We'll try a little bit more. Try to get close to the bend as possible. Eyeballs, calibrated eyeballs, that's pretty straight right there. I like that. I'm gonna call that close enough. So it does work. You can go back a few degrees still. Next, I wanna throw this one bend up on the truck here just to see how tight it's gonna fit on the corner, and if we're gonna have to go wider or bring it way out. Like, I don't know, because the truck has a sharp corner of a bed, but the bend is a radius, so obviously you can't cut the corner with the tube. So we got to see how close and tight this thing's gonna fit. So I got some stands set up here. We're just gonna try and get it set on there to see how it's gonna look. Something like that. You can also start setting heights and stuff too. I think it's gonna be cool. So this definitely needs to come up a little. Okay, so if I want to keep it close to the side, it's going to stick out quite a ways out the back. I mean, not a horrible amount. Further than I want. The other option is to make it stick a little wider. And then I can push it forward. Yeah, I think it'll work out. However we do it, it will work out. I'm trying not to lose any ground clearance. So I want to keep it somewhat high. It's kind of nice. It's a little bit of a step. And the tailgate, I gotta make sure it's, yeah, I see it has to come down because the tailgate's already hitting it. So it's already too high, which sucks because I like it that high. This thing's gonna be cool. So this is where it's gonna be, I think. This is a good, we got just a finger gap on the edge there. It's as high as I can make it because the tailgate opens and barely touches it. And yeah, this is like basically the corner that, right here. You know, it's got a sharp corner or a big round bend, so it's like you gotta, yeah, it all has to be out far enough to clear that. We're gonna leave just a minimal amount on the corner there, I think, because I am trying to limit the amount of overhang on this thing. It already has a big overhang, so we're gonna limit that as much as possible. So I think that's gonna work out pretty good right there. The hard part is to bend the second one, because I have to figure out exactly where to start my bend for it to end up at the exact same spot on this side. Here's one little difference I noticed. This truck, we're missing some sheet metal here. So see how this is, I don't know, you see it. This side actually has a body seam along here where there's a piece of metal that's like basically bolted or sealed up against it. And so it's got this little, I don't know, body line and everything. So this makes a nice cover piece because it's flat. It's basically flat with the bed and everything. This side is missing that piece, so it's actually a lot higher. So when I bend this around, you're gonna have a big gap underneath it, which might not look the best, but there's nothing we can do about it unless you were to get that piece and be able to bolt or weld a piece back onto it. But yeah, it's just gonna have to have a gap on that one. It will get covered a little bit, I think, when we do our little hoops on the side. But yeah, just something we gotta deal with. Marked it right there. That's where the beginning of my die is going to be. The bend doesn't start for 3/4 inch inward of that, and then the bend itself will be 5.5 inches, and it should end up exactly where we want it, just like this side. So kind of measuring off of what this side does, where this mark is in relation to a couple points on the body. The fact that the body is completely mangled doesn't help, but that should be it. Good thing is we got lots of wiggle room too, and we might end up cutting this thing in the middle to put a receiver too, so we'll see how this goes. We got our cross member cut out, ground down. Next I need to get up under there, get some of that rust cleaned up off that frame so we can find some clean metal to weld to. And then, yeah, attaching this bumper is going to go fairly quick. Not a whole lot of bends left. I got 2 more pieces I want to bend up, but as far as attaching it, it should be pretty easy. We'll update here with Christian's Jeep. He stopped by on his lunchtime. He borrowed a Porta Power. I need one of those. Those things are so handy. And so we just shoved it in here between the frame rails, and then we were able to bend using a hammer too to shock it. And we bent his the steering box part of it back out where it needs to be pretty much. So he's going to come back later after work. We're going to start grinding and cutting and bracing and make all that stuff strong again. So worked pretty good. I like this. I need one of these Porta Powers. That's pretty handy for bending stuff. All right, we're fitting up this cross member. We're getting ready to put it in. The way they cut the frame off, one end kind of hangs out, so I'm actually going to cap it just to give me a solid spot to weld the end of the frame across it. So I just made this little 3/16 cap. It's a little overkill, but we'll weld that in here real quick, and then we can slam this thing in and burn it in. And we're done. Look at that, I'm getting so good at welding, you can't even tell where I welded. It's so smooth. Okay, just kidding. You know I ground that down. I need it flat to be able to fit in between the frame rails there, but yeah, we just did a quick and dirty cap there, so we're gonna slam this thing in. Just like that. I got spots to weld. It's gonna be some dirty welding in here, that's for sure. We burned this thing in as best we could. Not too bad welds. I'm not a fan of how little I could actually weld on it, so I did end up adding just a little piece, extra filler piece on top to kind of grab the top of the rail. Kind of boxes the end in anyways, so it's a little better. Side came out a little cleaner, but yeah, it's got the welds on the rear. It's got a couple going down the side and a little one on the front. I just wish I could weld all the way around. I can't get to the inside of it or anything, so. But I think it'll be all right, because not only is our bumper going to be attached to that, but then from the sides we're going to have a couple tubes that come in and attach to the more forward on the frame itself. So it's not going to be pulling entirely on just that cross member if you have to really use this bumper. I think we'll be alright. Plus this Toyota is super light. I mean, the back end of this thing is nothing. It's just sheet metal, little rear axle, light frame. You know, these things are so light, so you don't really have to build something super heavy duty, so I think we'll be alright here. Right now I've got my bumper completely set where I want it, and now I'm making the straight bars straight to the frame. I'm gonna notch those right now to make them fit right, and then we gotta start figuring out all the other tubes we want to add for strength. And then obviously this length is overly long right now, so we're gonna cut this off back here somewhere, probably just right at that pinstripe. We'll leave it extra long for now, I think. It's coming out pretty good. I like it. This thing's gonna look sick. This is the best part of tube fabrication, when you actually get to use the notcher, because I don't know, it's so satisfying. This hole saw is pretty wore out, so hopefully it'll make it through this project. If not, I got an extra one. Oh yeah, transmission shot on this drill. Okay. thing's so wore out. It shouldn't smoke and spark like that. But we're getting our money's worth out of this one. Alright, this is where we're at right now. We got our bars in. The notches came out perfect. We're going straight to the frame. Looking good. Oh, we're looking at the sky. Jesus. All our spacing is exactly where it needs to be. We're ready to start adding more. Now, we got Christian over here. He's working on his Jeep. And basically we came out here and we ground down all his cracks. Well, he did. And then, yeah, you're just filling it up with weld.
Yeah, we're just trying to get everything flattened back out and keep all the metal happy, get all the stress cracks out. Got the cleanup done on the inside. We haven't touched that yet, but
looks good. Running this thing on 220, it's melting it in there. A lot better than we used to be able to do.
Beautiful.
Update, we got it going on here. Christian made a nice little fish plate there. It's all welded in solid, looks good. Super strong, way better than it was. Inside, pretty much hit just about every joint and weld. And there were so many little cracks everywhere. It's kind of crazy. And then we went underneath quite a bit, did a bunch of stuff underneath the frame too. We're gonna do a little work on this side, add a fish plate in here, and I don't know. It's just random stuff everywhere on this was cracked, so it's gonna be a lot better. Got that one done. So we got his all welded up, put back together, and yeah, just gonna go drop him back off at the house, come back so he can grab his truck. The weekend is just about over and I'm out of steam, so I've just been cleaning up and getting ready to hit my work week here soon. But this is where we are. We got this bumper almost cut and fitted. We're not welded at all, it's all just tack welded. All that we have left is, if you see that tape on there, we're gonna do that in tube, one piece of tube. So we'll have a 45 and then a 90. It'll come back far enough to kind of protect the taillight a little bit, but it will keep things away from the taillights at least. And then the 45 just kind of looks good. It actually kind of mimics this factory, I don't know if you can see that factory design on the door there. I guess this was like a California special or something like that, kind of a rare 1 year only type truck or something, but obviously it's not great for that anymore. But so you can see the shape of the piece that we're going to be putting in there, and that'll help protect that bed corner, because this is a long bed. I verified that. So that's it. We got one more bend and then we can fully weld it all. The only thing he wanted to do was he actually wanted to add a receiver to the middle, because he wants to maybe tow a small boat someday. I don't know how much you can tow in this thing, but that's what he wanted. But I kind of decided against it. For one, it's gonna be hanging down. I was gonna put it right in the middle of that tube, but it would be hanging down an inch or so below the tube. So I don't want to do that, because it'll be an anchor back there. So I think what I'm gonna do is, because I have so much stuff underneath now, is I'll make him a removable, like just bolt on, bolt off type receiver that can just go up underneath it and then bolt in place, and then you can take it out when he's not using it type of thing. I think it'll be a better option for this thing. But yeah, we're pretty much done. You can see our tube fitment is really good, and I don't think I've showed you much underneath yet. So this is what we got underneath. See if I can get way up under here. So you can see we added our diagonal bars here, so that'll help kind of triangulate things and help this corner have some protection. We got crossbar up there at the end of the tube, and we did 4 across the middle. So this thing's definitely gonna be strong. And then I showed you the cross member earlier, so yeah, that's pretty much where it's at. I think, I mean, obviously a short bed would be better for something like this. That bumper would probably be halfway in, and it would be a little stronger because you wouldn't have these long lengths of tube sticking out. But for what it is, it's pretty cool. I mean, the long bed looks kind of neat. It's just a little different, you know. So yeah, that's where we're at for this weekend. So I guess we're gonna pick it up again next weekend. I'll bend those last 2 tubes. Maybe I can do it this week, well, after work one day if I feel good, and then weld it all up solid, and I think we'll be done with this one. It'll be pretty cool. So that's where we're gonna call this weekend. I'm all done. I'm all wore out. I just gotta do some some cooking and stuff for my week, a little meal prep type stuff. But we've cleaned up, we're done with the weekend. So I will talk to you guys later.